No. Okay. The Rebbe's Basi Legani, Tavshin Chaf, Gimel, page 287. Okay, last thing the Rebbe was explaining was that the fact that the Baal Shem Tov said that false modesty can destroy the world, destroy the Beis HaMikdash. So from here we have the opposite, that when you have Isnasas Atzmis, meaning when you have the guts to continue, not false humility, you realize what you're accomplishing, and a single Jew can accomplish tremendous things in the upper worlds, and that's the level of Atzi Shitim, when you transform the foolishness of world to foolishness of Kedusha, like we said, and they stand Oimdim, standing like the word Amud, which is a column and a pillar that connects ceiling with roof, and brings down the revelations. So that's the proper thing. He says now, and now he continues in that chapter. After he finishes in Basi Legani, the second Maimer, he starts explaining the pasuk Yesheves Beganim. There's another pasuk which is the Yud Gimel Shvat Maimer of the previous Rebbe. It says over there like this: Yesheves Beganim, ones that sit in the gardens, Chaverim Makshivim L'Kodesh, that your friends come to listen to your voice. So he says, Hine b'pasuk zeh yesh gimel perushim. There's three interpretations of this pasuk. For you do as it's known, shekol hapirushim shebetera. Anytime there's two explanations, or three explanations, 10 explanations on a certain pasuk, all the explanations are interconnected. The fact that they're explaining the same pasuk shows there's something connected. Even if they're opposite interpretations, they still are connected. Pirush Aleph, the first explanation of Ayushev is Beganim. What Ganim are we talking about? What gardens are we talking about? He says, the Ganim, which is plural by the way, it says gardens, doesn't say Yeshev is Began. Ganim refers to two levels of Gan Eden. Gan Eden. Gan Eden Tachten with Gan Eden Alien. The lower level of Gan Eden and the higher level of Gan Eden. The Prat is here more detailed. He says, the two levels of Gan Eden include with them infinite amount of levels. Kama Madregas. Like we learned, generally speaking, there's Gan Eden Elyon, Gan Eden Tachten, but there's infinite levels in each one. Yeshev is Beganim. So what does it mean, this sitting in Gan Eden? That refers of the neshamas of Gan Eden. Every person based on their avodah that they did in life. The darga yesenayis began Eden ben nekroim b'shem chavedim. And these neshamas are called chavedim, meaning like this: Hayushav is beganim, the neshamas that sit in Gan Eden, higher Gan Eden, lower Gan Eden, who are called chavedim. The neshamas between themselves are called friends. Why? Like the Friedrich Rebbe explains in parentheses in the Maimer. The Palmim, Neshama Netzelis. One Neshama comes from another Neshama. Yeshleim Radil Loshen Netzelis. When he says the word one Neshama comes from another Neshama, he uses the word Netzelis, which is the world of Atzilus. Reimet Al Darga Yetzein B'Shur Gan Eden, which is the level of Eden. In the Gan, the level of Atzilus, which is higher than Bria. Okay, so he says like this. 287, Reis Gimel. So he says that the Neshamas are sitting in Gan Eden, and they're called Chavedim because they're all interconnected. V'zeh Chavedim Makshivim L'Kelech. The Chavedim meaning Shaneshama Shebegan Eden Shinekuro Chavedim. So what does it mean like this? Hayeshev is Beganim, those neshamas that are in Gan Eden, that are chavedim, your friends, meaning the neshama that's in the body's friend. Makshivim l'kol teira v'tfilah shal neshamas hamlubeshes baguf lamata, which are listening. In other words, like this: what the first interpretation of this pasuk is the neshamas that sit in Gan Eden come to listen to the neshamas in the body, davening and learning. That's a Shevis Beganim, which are Chaveirim, which are all interconnected. Makshivim L'Koilech, come and listen to the voice of the Jews down here, davening and learning, and that's what it says, Hashmieni. Shema Neshamesh Begufim, refers to the neshamas in the bottom through the voice of Torah and Tefillah, Hagermim Ili B'Mailas Anin Elias, a neshama Began Eden, which caused an elevation for the neshamas in Gan Eden. Which means like this, we know that when a child does good deeds, it influences the neshama of the parents in Gan Eden. That's why on a yard site, you daven, you say Kaddish, you give tzedakah, you learn, whatever, you do extra things. That all helps the neshama in Gan Eden. Therefore, the first interpretation is, Hayeshev is beganim, the neshama sitting in Gan Eden, come to listen to the neshamas in the body, learning and davening. Okay, that's the first interpretation. Upir Shabbos. The second interpretation, Hayeshev is beganim, is not on a high level. The way neshamas are beganim, it goes on the opposite extreme. Hayeshev is beganim refers to Jews in Golus. The Jews that are sitting in Ganim, in gardens of other people, meaning under, like he says, the Rashi says, and by the way, that pasuk, Rashi interprets it that the Jews sitting in Golus, in the ways of evil, in a way that they're sitting. What do you mean they're sitting? It's like not a temporary thing, it's a permanent thing. When you stand, you run in, you're standing, it's like a temporary thing. When you sit down, you make yourself at home. Now, so he said like this. First interpretation is the neshamas in Gan Eden come and listen to the neshamas in the bodies. The second interpretation is like this: those Jews that sit in Golus, yeah. So Chavedim, the Malachim that are called Chavedim. Why are Malachim called Chavedim? Shein beinehem le'kinav le'sinav le'tachlis. There's no jealousy, there's no hatred, there's no competition. Makshivim l'koilech. Psh, you did tshuva, you came back. Makshivim l'koilech, listen to the voice. So now this interpretation is different. First interpretation is the neshama sitting in Gan Eden, come listen to the Jews learning here. Second interpretation is Jews that are sitting in Golus, and they learn, Malachim come and listen to them. Makshivim listen to your voice. Hainu she'im yesh neshamis lamata nimtzoyim beganim shalachedim. That means even though when Jews are found in somebody else's garden, meaning in Golus, hein b'matzav b'mayim u'matzav. Meaning like this, neshamas down here in Golus cannot be called Chavedim. Even though we say Chavedim call Yisrael, but the Medrash says like this: when Yidden are in Golus, so they're not connected. Chavedim means chibur. Why is a friend called Chaver? Chaver comes with chibur. It's connected. They're connected. To the extent they're so low that the Jews can be called Chavedim. Who are called Chavedim? The Malachim that are called Chavedim. Shemalachod Malchei Hasharetz Makshivim L'Kol Avidasim Shal Neshamish Begufim. Meaning, Afilu Kshem Bedarga Kezu Shem Bezurim Aganim Shalachedim. That even a Jew that's in the lowest of levels.
Is that why we say Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish?
Yeah, one of the things of it. Okay, so there are another. These are mamish two opposites interpretation. One refers to neshama sitting at the highest level of the Gan Eden, and meaning the malachim, the neshamas that are in Gan Eden, listen to the neshamas davening and learning in the guf, and the other one is the Jews are in such a low situation, not in the highest levels of Gan Eden. They're in the lowest of levels, and nevertheless the malachim come and listen to the learning and davening of the Jew. What?
Before he didn't mention that anything about Galus.
I said it's a different interpretation. That's what he's saying.
Even if we're not in Galus, because we're on earth.
Yeah, but called Ganim Shalachedim, Rashi says meaning when you're in the foreign gardens.
So
that's what Rashi explains the
pasuk.
pasuk.
Would be like angelic, like the angels. That would be chaverim.
No, we're not. If we would be chaverim, we'd be like angels.
No. There was a Beis Hamikdash.
If you're not a mensch, you're also a malach, because you're not a mensch.
No, I'm just saying. I'm serious.
What? I'm serious.
If there was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, the Jews were chaverim.
Yeah.
Like the angels in heaven.
Not like the angels in heaven, but Sinas Chinam caused the Beis Hamikdash to be destroyed. So before that, they had Havas Chinam. Okay, the third one he doesn't say yet. Okay, he said there's three interpretations.
One more question, I'm sorry.
What?
The lowest of the low, they don't learn. So why would the angels come to listen?
He said
to them
even though they still learn.
So we're talking about those who sin, but they also learn.
Yeah.
But if they don't learn, the angels don't.
Why are you talking about? Jews come to Shul Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. They come to Shul for a yard site.
Okay.
They come to Shul when there's food. I mean, come on.
Where's the food?
I thought you were bringing it. Okay, by the way, in the footnote it says that even though the Rebbe writes here there are three interpretations of Yeshevas Beganim, it says in the Maimed the Rebbe only brings down two, and the Sikha the Rebbe said that for bringing there was the third one. To explain the sequence of it, the Maimed is like this. He says, what is the first interpretation? That when the Malachim in Gan Eden come to listen to us learn, our learning elevates them. That's what the Rebbe said before in the first interpretation, elevates those neshamas to a higher level. The same thing, the Malachim of every world becomes elevated. Because if a Jew elevates the world, if you pick up the bottom block, all the blocks get picked up, not only the bottom one, you're picking them all up. So when a Jew does Avodah, and forget in the Basi Legani, it says when a Jew brings down Elokus into the world, he gets the most of it because he's the one that brings it down. But when a Jew does Torah mitzvahs, not only are we elevated, but Asiya and Yetzira and B'riya and Atzilas, and it's all elevated. How? The more Elokus becomes revealed. Mizem, moving from it, we can understand. Therefore, if he's saying like this, we do mitzvahs, we add kedusha into Atzilas, B'riya, Yetzira, and Asiya. That is the level of Mamalakal Alman. Right, because you have the differentiation of the world. You have Atzilas, B'riya, Yetzira, and Asiya. And he says, when the Shamas and Gan Eden become elevated, the Malachim become elevated. That means we're talking about the level of Mamalakal Alman. He says, the level, we're not talking about the level of Istalik, so this revelation of Elokus, we're not talking about the infinite level of Elokus, because that doesn't come down in all the worlds equally. In the level of Mamala, the permeating level of Elokus, that comes down based on the vessel, is how much light you get. And that's why, by the way, it says Yeshevas Beganim. Yeshiva is the way it's, when you sit down, it represents a lowering. When you're standing, you're taller. Now you sit down, you lower yourself. So sitting, that's why the world of Bria is called Yeshiva. Atzilis is called Eimed, Bittul. That's why Shemon Esrei, which is the level of Atzilis, you have to stand. Krishma, that section, is called Bria, and therefore you can sit by Krishma. B'chol darg v'darg lefinyon, every level based on its inyan. B'ganei no'elyon beifin kazel, b'moloch shabei l'masiyah beifin kazel. By the way, there's angels in all the worlds. Not Natsilas. There's angels in Asiya, Yetzira, Bria, different levels.
Different type of...
Different level of angels. You have even in davening. The Srafim are higher than the Ifanim. Sure, in davening you see, this one says Kodesh, this one says Baruch. They're aimed in Mimalei, they're standing above them. By the way, the Rambam explains at the beginning of Rambam, helps us to say the Torah. The Rambam explains when you find Psukim, obviously, the Rambam says there's no physical concept. It's not that these Malachim are 100 miles up and these Malachim are 75 miles up and 50 miles up and 25. Obviously, it's ridiculous. He says when it says about higher and lower in spiritual realms, it doesn't mean physically higher up and lower up. Okay. When you say neshama goes up to Gan Eden, it doesn't go this way like a spaceship that takes off. That's ridiculous. When people say Gehenna is 6 feet under, it doesn't mean you dig a hole 6 feet and you go into Gehenna. I mean that's obviously it's ridiculous. What it means is angels or whatever it is that have a greater perception of godliness are called higher. Angels that have a lesser perception of godliness are called lower. Those in the neshamas, greater neshamas, meaning their neshama is a greater open connection to Hashem. So those neshamas are higher and greater than the neshamas of the masses.
That's why it says when Mashiach comes, our job will be to learn about Hashem.
Kulam Yedois, everybody's going to know about
That's
Hashem.
the more higher perception you have, the higher level of experience.
The higher perception of godliness you have, in the level of Malakol, you have more godliness revealed within you.
And also, in Atzilus there's no angels.
I didn't say there is. I said in Asiya, Yetzirah, and Bria.
But the angels are essentially like robots. They don't have any...
Correct. They have no
emotions.
features.
They just perform
their
certain
job.
tasks with no self-judgment, no
Correct.
self-awareness.
Correct.
So how can they be in any way lower or higher? It's meaningless.
It's just the neshamas are created with a higher level of perception of godliness than other angels. That's where they were created.
He's talking about angels.
I'm
versus
saying
other
the angels that are higher were created by God, not up to them, not their free choice. They were created with a higher perception of godliness than the lower angels.
It's more of an intellectual, nothing with emotions or compassion. So how can they be really higher if it's so...
1 second. You can
limited
have
to
somebody
their-
who's smarter than somebody else is in a higher level.
But in this case,
But again,
we're talking about
like we learned about 1
angels
second.
are-
You say somebody has a deep head. Yes? A deep head doesn't mean it's 20 feet deep. You don't measure depth of a mind with a ruler. Right? When you say somebody is very generous, you say he has a big heart. It doesn't mean he'll be, God forbid, dangerously ill. Okay? It's a term,
metaphor.
a metaphor. So when we see by angels standing, sitting, higher, lower, it's all a metaphor. What's the metaphor? Higher means a greater perception of godliness, whether it's intellectual or emotional. For instance, certain malachim, Michal, there's a nice guy up there, Michal, he serves God with love. Gavriel, Gevura, serves God with yira, fear.
So these are emotions.
Rafal, I'm saying, the malachim are, it's a metaphor for intellect, emotions.
Oh, but they don't really have emotions.
No, do you think the angels have wings?
They do have emotions.
They do have it. I didn't say that. I said, what do you think, they have wings?
They have emotions.
Yeah, they have emotions.
But not emotion.
No, we just-
Atzilus has emotions too, but he has
They have
emotions
love, they
too.
have fear.
No. They
Well,
don't.
Michal is primarily love, Gavriel is primarily fear, and Rafal is in the middle, Teferes. And he says, Zelhu bir hemshech hanyon shebamayl, shetchila, mevarya yidei aveda lamata. First, the Friedrich Rebbe explains like this. By the aveda down here, first, by doing aveda, you bring down the level of istalik, the level of saving kol almin. Vad l'seiver v'amiti, to the real seiver, which is atzmosim v'husi, is about the essence of Hashem. V'achar kach meisiv, then he adds a second aspect. Shavei dezu atzma pe'eles eid inyan b'amshachas elokus. In other words, Friedrich Rebbe is explaining, this is the sequence of the Maamarim. First he explains, when you break evil, transform evil, you're revealing a level of elokus, which is Seviv Kolam. To the ultimate level, like he said, the ultimate Seviv is the essence of Hashem. Like before you do a mitzvah, you connect it to the essence. Then he explains, not only that, not only do you accomplish that, but also, you bring down another aspect of godliness. Every world on its level. Meaning like this. Not only do you bring down the infinite level of godliness. No, first you bring down Sefer, he says. Then he says not only that, but you bring down a greater level of Mamala in each world accordingly. Remember he said, when the jeweler started down here, the Malachim become elevated. That's all in Mamala. The Malachim are in Bria Yitzira. Asiya, wherever all three worlds are in, yeah? So they become elevated. That means in Mamala they become elevated. So he says two things. First of all, you bring down the essence of God in the world, and not only that, that even in the level of worlds as worlds, each world becomes greater because of the term mitzvahs you do down here. So two things happen. Number one, you bring down the essence of Hashem, and in addition to that, every world on its own level becomes elevated. What?
They're both the same thing.
No, not at all.
Whatsoever on Mamala,
You add Sefer, you add Mamala. Well, there's two distinct chayas of Elokus in the world, Sefer and Mamala. Right? So you bring down Sefer and Mamala.
What was the
One
proof of
is-
Sovev?
What?
What's the proof that Sovev comes also?
B'chulu Alman means a level of godliness that all the worlds are equal. The highest and lowest are all the same. That's the level of Sefer Kolam. That's the infinite level. But the Rebbe adds, the Rebbe is saying that the Friedrich Rebbe adds that not only do you bring down Sefer Kolam, you also add Imamala, means Atzilus becomes greater, Bria becomes greater, Yitzira becomes greater. In the level of Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, and Nasi itself. Okay. Here's it.